right, well, keeping up with the protest here in Abuja, we've got Bukola Idowu here with us. He's the Executive Director of Impact Development Initiative and a member of the Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Well, your man, your team, they're already on the ground. The protest is on. I understand they're marching from Federal Secretariat going to National Assembly to make a point in terms of what they actually want. So, well, is it that the Situation Room and your team, were you surprised that this actually came through, or because I understand that the other committee had met. They had met your groups and everybody had agreed that, okay, look, this is what was going to play out.
We were very surprised. In fact, we call it like, it's more or less like a coup, because you agree on something and then suddenly, not only we agree, the committee went through the nook and cranny of this country, conducted public hearing, and citizens submitted memoranda and things, and then civil society. And at the end of the day, it looks like this is what Nigerians want. And suddenly, of course, after that, after the public hearing, there was a meeting of the two houses in Lagos where they harmonized and they have a clean copy. And they agreed that, look, it's going to be transmission. It's going to be a 10-year ban for vote buyer. Then they are retaining the 1-year notice of the timeline. At the end of the day, December, the House of Rep passed exactly what was agreed. And then just late January, the Senate went back on what was agreed, and which technically is taking us back years ahead on our election, concerning our election. And that is why citizens, civil society, all of us are saying no, because we have to make that statement now. And the question we are asking is, if you know that transmission is going to enhance transparency of our election, most especially election results management, why are we going backward that have not been proven to give us the kind of transparency we have been desired? So why are we going backward? And that is why we are gathering, that is why we are protesting today, and that is why we are calling everybody to also add their voice to this, so that we can have a complete transparent election come 2027.
I know that, yes, they will be sitting tomorrow, even though they had adjourned to February 24, but they will sit. Do you, of course, you have to be optimistic that perhaps they will do the right thing and make it expressly spelled out that shall be electronic real-time transmission of those results?
Yes. So if we've not taken the decision we have taken, everybody talking about it, it's not only the civil society talking about it. Interestingly, professional bodies are also talking about this. And then, in fact, the IT sector also see this like, look, this is not really looking good on Nigeria, to be given an excuse that in the 21st century, in the 2026 Nigeria, going to 2027, you are saying, no, there may not be internet across everywhere, so we may not be able to transmit elections. So everybody is adding their voice. And I want to believe that is one of the reasons why the Senate is convening tomorrow, because initially, you recall, they've adjourned plenary till 24th. And then, of course, based on that, we commend them. In fact, we have had people that say, oh, they are convening tomorrow, there is no need to protest. No, we need to protest.
Is it not too early to thank them, to commend them?
Commending them that they are going to sit. Now, that is why we are protesting. We are not commending them that they have done the right thing. It's too early. So we want to see that, look, and that is why if they are going to see, you see, we cannot do anything if they decide not to call off their sitting and move their sitting backward. But that is good. But what we are now saying that today, we want to remind them that as you sit tomorrow, you still have ample time to correct this. And that is the entire idea.
Ayo.
Chamberlain, perhaps one of the issues to draw here, Mr. Idowu, is how we carry Nigerians along. Now, one of the arguments that was brought forward earlier when we engaged Honorable Mohammed is that, you know, the senators, the legislators, they may not be able to go back to base. And you say you have traversed the CSOs have traversed Nigeria and gotten this position that this is what Nigerians want. question then is, how do we get Nigeria to own this in public so that not just at the federal level, but at the state and local government levels also, they're able to own whatever it is that we are campaigning for?
So I mean, if you follow the sequence of the public hearing that was done across the 6 geopolitical zone, we saw Nigerians coming out, emas, and then make presentation on various issues, most especially on this issue of transmission. Now look at it this way: 2023, how good? I mean, no matter how good that election was in 2023. The missing link and what everybody keeps saying, no, this is not really good about 2023 election, was the issue of the IREV and the transmission of results. Now, nobody is complaining about logistics, whatever. Nobody is talking about, oh, election was not shifted. Everybody says, oh, the election was good. We've made progress. However, you promised that you are going to transmit, and it did not happen. And that is what really made a lot of Nigerians to say, look, at that election, have a lot of gray hairs. And don't forget, 2023 election, we have it, data shows us that we have more first-time voters compared to past election. Now, those first-time voters are these young people that, because they saw the promise of transmission and IREV, real-time, and then they want to be part of it. Now, at the end of the day, everybody was disappointed. Now, if you go online, you see the conversation. You go even offline, you see the conversation. But the reason why it's looking like it's an Abuja thing is because the Electoral Act is not really like, how would I call it, like a constitution amendment that you still need the 2/3 of the state to pass it. You will have seen people besieging, moving into their state houses of assembly, and then telling them to vote in favor. But because this is between the National Assembly, the moment they are done, they transmit it to the president. And that is why the mobilization, because the decision maker, the people that we alter and amend and make progress on the Electoral Act are here in Abuja. And that is, interestingly, people are even coming from outside the federal capital, coming in to join the protest today, interestingly. So it's not like an Abuja protest, it is Nigerians. People that
just want to be sure
physically are talking online.
My apologies,
and again,
Mr.
over
Idowu.
the weekend, people have been calling their senators, people have been sending email and been sending SMS to their senators.
Yeah, I just want to help Nigerians understand exactly what we are asking for. And you raised a very vital issue now, that in the aftermath of the 2023 elections, there were issues that arose from glitches. And even Mr. Zachary, Honorable Mohammed, when we counted him, also said the same thing. And almost every time we have had elections and we have used this electronic transmission, whatever, there were glitches. Can we legislate glitches? That's on the one hand. On the other hand, would you recommend a backup in the event that such a thing happens? And if there would be a backup, what would you recommend?
Okay, so I will take it from the second question. Number one is this: the proposal that the Senate rejected did not talk about solely electronic transmission of results. So what the proposal talks about is that you transmit and you still have the hard copy as a backup, as a to confirm again. So you have the hard copy of the form EC8A, and then the other form EC40G and the rest. You have the hard copy, and then you, in case of anything, you have that to fall back on. Nobody is saying eradicate that. So you have that, and at the same time, you see, all over the world, I mean, the guest earlier mentioned a lot of countries at which they have been transmitting election results, but they have been also able to put in place cyber security, which is not difficult for us to do in Nigeria. So you have to put that in place. At the same time, INEC have backups, and the backup they have is not only situated with only one server, and they have it spread across. And see, and the issue is this, which will have been more relaxed if it's INEC coming out to say, look, we don't have capacity to do this. Now, but INEC, don't forget, this is not even a new thing. This has started since 2020 in Edo, Ondo election, when INEC introduced the IREF and the beavers to transmit. But in 2023, something happened. There was a glitch, and that takes me to your question. Can we legislate glitch? No. But there was a glitch, and that was the end. Everybody just moved on. And the reason why everybody moved on, because that issue of IREF, beavers, and this transmission and the glitch doesn't have legislative backing. You recall the decision of the Supreme Court. You see, when the results were unable to be transmitted, what happened? Peter Obi and Atiku Abubakar, those were one of the reasons they went to the court. And the Supreme Court said, look, because IREF did not work and they did not transmit electronically, it's not a sufficient ground to invalidate the election because it is not in the electoral act. It is only situated in INEC guideline. So, and meanwhile, electoral act, Supreme Court emphasized, electoral act supersede the INEC guideline. So what is Nigerian asking? What are we asking? So far, the Supreme Court have said, look, this thing is in the electoral act, in the INEC guideline, and INEC guideline cannot supersede this. And you cannot hold INEC account and just hold them and say, look, because you did not follow your guideline, and we cannot invalidate the election. So what is Nigeria saying? Take that portion from INEC guideline and move it to the electoral act, which they have done in their sitting, and the House of Rep passed that, and the Senate rejected it. So what am I trying to say is this. You can legislate this. The moment this is being legislated and given the force of the law, INEC will not come and say, there is a glitch. Think about it. There was a glitch in 2023 as INEC conduct independent audit on what happened. Is it technical? Is it operational? Is it human-induced glitch? Nobody knows. And nobody could hold them accountable because there is no law anywhere that says, look, you must do that. But what we are now saying is that to also encourage accountability, because an institution who spent over 100 billion on IT for the election come out and say there was a glitch, and Nigerians move on, and we moved on, and everybody is moving on. Even in their final report, they repeat it, there was a glitch. What caused the glitch? Nobody knows. So if these have the force of the law, just like electronic accreditation have the force of the law as of today says, if you bypass beavers for accreditation, then the result of that polling unit will be cancelled. That is what the law says. And that is why everywhere, everybody uses the beavers for accreditation. Yeah. Then just make sure this is also in the law. And that is the best way to do it. So even if there was a glitch, then they will quickly tell Nigerians, it's either you shift the election and say, let's resolve this glitch, and then we move on, or you just conduct exactly what happened. So there will be accountability, and people can be held responsible.
All right, so all eyes will be on the Senate by the time they convene tomorrow to ensure the right things are done. So yes, you can see right there, the protests already going on in the National Assembly. Yes, they will not be able to enter in, but they're making the point that this is what we want, and we also understand that they will be there tomorrow to continue the protest. So we will equally be there as well. So senators, you are notified, hereby notified. So we hope that at the end of the day, they will do what the people who elected them want. Bukola Idowu is the Executive Director, Impact Development Initiative, and a member, Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you so much.